Well, welcome everyone. Dating after 50, a topic particularly close to my heart today, as I do know many around me who would very much welcome a serious partner in their life at this stage. So lucky us, because we have Lisa Copeland as guest today, a leading internationally recognized love coach and dating expert for women after 50. So really specifically her segment. She's the author of The Winning Data Formula for Women Over 50. So what more do we want? Welcome, Lisa. First, can we start with you telling us a little bit about who you are, maybe where you are, and why you do what you do?
All right. And thank you, Julie, for having me here, because this is a topic that is really dear to my heart. And the reason is because I had been married 24 years. My marriage ended in my mid 40s, and online dating was fairly new then. So it was almost like embarrassing to say, oh, I'm online. And it was a little embarrassing. I cried a lot. I didn't know what I was doing. I had always gotten along really well with men, but going out into the dating world, I was clueless. And there was no one. Well, I did find a second husband, but that lasted 2 years because it was tremendous chemistry and there was no friendship in it. And
Right.
when it ended and I took time to heal, which I always recommend women do after every relationship, because otherwise you're dragging stuff from one
Yeah.
relationship to the other. So I took time to heal and I went looking for a coach, and there was just no one there. And I called my sister crying and I said, I'm doomed to live the rest of my life alone. I just can't find someone to help me. And she says, oh my God, you are one of the most resourceful people I know. You can figure this out. And then I did. And I started to have a great time dating. It was fun. I wasn't crying every 10 seconds. And it was a lot of fun. And my friend said, what are you doing? We never get dates. And I gave them tips. And that's what led me into my business of
Wonderful.
being a dating coach or a love coach and a dating expert for women over 50.
Yeah, and you're doing extremely well. And I'm just so grateful for this sort of story where somebody's taken some hardship that they've faced and created something or decided to put together all the tips that they'd gathered or the studies that they did looking for a solution to something that nobody else was providing, and then give it back to the community. So I'm grateful for you. And you're based in the States, Lisa?
I am in the States. I am in Cleveland, Ohio, which is the home of
Okay.
the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Wonderful. So thank you for being with us here today because, I mean, as you just said, it's a very vulnerable topic, isn't it? I mean, first of all, most people who are dating after 50, so either have not yet met anyone, so they're starting to wonder if there's something wrong with them, I have the feeling, or they've had a nasty breakup, or often after a long marriage. I mean, I was also 25 years with my partner, and suddenly you're in a totally different ball game in a world which is so radically different from the ones where we were maybe dating when we were 22, 23. I mean, it makes me feel like a dinosaur, but things have changed so much. I mean, we didn't even have internet and emails back then, and now there's all of this, so this not feeling capable, and this image thing, everybody has all these fancy stuff and the photos that they put online. It just makes you feel so fundamentally vulnerable, I guess.
Yes, I think the hardest thing, and this is what made me cry a lot back in the day when I first started dating, was we don't feel so great about ourselves.
Oh,
It's probably been a long time since someone said, oh my God, you look great.
yeah.
You're this, you're that, with compliments. And even though that should come from within us, we forget. And
Mm.
those reminders of how we are great. But ultimately, the work does come from within us. And
Yeah.
we have to get our confidence back, because what we're doing is we're looking in the mirror and we're
Yeah.
thinking, I didn't look like this in my 20s.
No,
I'm
looking in
gonna
the mirror
let
is
them
already
down.
scary enough if you do have a partner. So, yes.
Yeah, well, it's like, so yeah, and so people are going, who's gonna like me? But the funny thing is a guy doesn't know what you look like in your 20s. And he's
It's true.
attracted to you today, not where you were back in the day.
Yeah.
But because we are looking at ourselves as less than, we
Yeah.
go on a date with this fear of who's going to like me versus, do I like the guy?
Yes.
When I came out of my marriage, my kids, I had one in college and one still in high school. And so it was like being a soccer mom. You're going to their games, you're going to their events. And I grew up in an era where jeans were like the thing.
Mm.
So I remember my first date, I'm going, okay, what should I wear? And I go in my closet, and all I have are these ugly fake Birkenstocks, which are so trendy now, but they were in different colors. They were not Birkenstocks, by the way. They were like Land's End or something, and in different colors, and jeans, and a lot of black t-shirts. I guess I was black, but they weren't like regular t-shirts. They were like, I don't know, they were from good stores, but it was like a uniform or
Yeah.
something. And I remember putting clothes on, and this is the first time I called my sister crying, going, oh my God, is he gonna like me?
Yeah.
As if she had a crystal ball. And that's because I was missing I like me. Because
Yes.
I didn't have to do that. When you're in a marriage, you just assume, you just don't even
Right.
think about it. You don't think
Yeah.
about it. Do I like me? Unless
Yeah.
you're pushed into a healing situation.
Very,
And,
very true.
mhm,
So
and
what
then
would you say the main obstacles are? We're talking about specifically 50 plus, because of course lots of the things are the same for everyone, the fear of rejection. But what would you say? So body image, I've heard you say as well. Who's gonna love me now? We're already finding it harder, even if we have managed to love ourselves before, which we women are particularly bad at, I find. I mean, we're always our worst enemies. We wouldn't speak to anybody the way we speak to ourselves. But yeah, I mean, there are unignorable signs of age. Gravity takes its full, maybe a bit of extra weight, wrinkles. Yeah. What would
yeah,
you
but
say?
if you look around, and I remember when my dad was in an independent living situation, and while he was still alive, and I looked around at a lot of the people there, and there were still women there who took pretty good care of themselves. And it's not like they dulled up. It's just
Yeah.
that you could see their energy. It's your energy
Yeah.
that.
Lisa.
And
Yeah.
they were still beautiful in their 90s with wrinkles and whatever, because people are what people think is, oh, I'm looking for their looks. Yes, there are some men that are just about the looks. And then look at all these very famous people that married models and divorced them
Yeah.
pretty quickly, because the energy, the vibration you're giving off is what really lights you up. And by the way, models have some of the lowest self-esteem
Very
because they're
true.
nailed constantly by the photographers and by the
Very
dress.
true.
And,
And living lives of horror, not being able to eat, to drink, totally terrified they're going to put on those extra grams, or that the next fad is going to be for people who are completely different to them. You are extremely vulnerable just based on your looks, right? I wouldn't want to be a model in a million years.
no, I wouldn't either. But the thing is you want to come into really loving and appreciating yourself. And
Yeah.
one of the greatest ways you can do that is set a little timer on your phone for 3 times a day and look in that mirror, or even 2, or even 1. Start with 1. You got to make it a habit. Look in the mirror and tell yourself things like, you are enough, really.
Yeah.
Look in the mirror. You are enough. Tell yourself 3 things you're grateful about yourself, or 3 things you really appreciate about yourself.
Right.
Because you need to be the one that likes you and
Yeah.
loves you just how you are. And it's hard. It's hard because we go out in the world and we compare ourselves to other women. We can go
Yeah.
out feeling amazing to a party. We walk in, we see someone else looks amazing, and we think we look like crap. And
Right.
down our energy goes. So, but you're still amazing. We just don't, we're just so busy
I love
comparing.
that what you said about energy, because it really is so true. And I've actually experienced that myself. I feel that people indeed do not look at the external signs of aging. I actually am very marked for 56. I've lived in Africa. I do love the sun. I'm outside all the time. I have really deep wrinkle marks around here. But anybody I speak to says, oh, I thought you were very much north of 50, not, going towards 60. And that is the energy. And what would you say also confidence? Because somewhere I read not long ago that confidence is the new sexy, right? It's so we have the thin, we have the fat, we have the long hair, we have the whatever. But it's just basically, yeah, what is confidence? It's loving yourself, right? It's feeling okay in your own skin.
It is loving yourself and yes, feeling okay in your own skin. And that is the key. The number one thing men are most attracted to in women is their confidence.
Right.
And, different men, just like different women, love all different body shapes and sizes. One man likes a thin woman, one man likes a woman that's chunky. There are men out there who will love you just how you
Yeah.
are, but it all starts from within you, every single bit of it.
So that's the first thing that they really need to work on then, right? Because otherwise they're approaching the whole dating thing. If I come back to what you said before, that women, and that really rang a bell with me, we go in thinking, I hope he's going to like me and all of that. Whereas what about us saying, I hope I like him. And also that they're saying the same thing, aren't they? I
Yeah.
think men nowadays are finding it very, they don't want to be left alone with their saggy beer belly or whatever it is. They also want to have somebody with whom they can share maybe a part of life which is greatly fun because we've mostly got more confidence and have more money maybe and all of that. But it's also quite scary. We would probably like to have someone who will stay with us if something goes wrong. Right? Or if we get ill and if we get old and our hair falls out and we need someone to push us around. Don't we often forget that the guys too are also vulnerable and scared?
They are vulnerable and scared. And a lot of good guys get passed up because when we're hypercritical of ourselves, we're going to be hypercritical of
Mm.
men.
Mm.
And so many people want that loving connection with a man, but they're sort of looking for it in the wrong places. They're looking for it in how a guy's body looks,
Yeah.
how big his wallet is, that he maybe can run with them. I call these perceived high value qualities where a guy has something we really, really want. And we think they're okay because of that. And then we miss good guys who will be there
Yes.
for us. Because what you really want is a companion that can hold their own, and then also have your back and you have their back and you have fun and play. But we're playing it so safe, I think, because what I see is women have this image of what they think they want. And what
Yeah.
happens in my community, I make them all create, I don't make them, it's part of the program. They can do it or not, but they create what's called a quality man template, which gives them a clear vision of the right man. It starts with looking
Right.
at men they've always been attracted to, and then it moves into the men that they want now. And what they find is their old type. Well, I will tell you, if your old type worked, and that's who usually women go out and look for, and they'll say, I can look at a guy and tell if he is my type. Not really. Okay,
That's
maybe
not
it's
fair, right? Yeah.
yeah, but what you need to create a new type, because if your old type worked, you'd be with them. I
Very
mean,
true.
so they go out there with this new type of man and this awareness of their old type. And of course, at first, they're attracted to their old type because we're used to it. And that's who you're going to have the most chemistry with, but it doesn't mean they're the best for you. And women tell me in the end that they're in amazing relationships. And I have to say, myself included, it is not who I thought it would be, not looks, just totally different than I thought it would be. And my clients say this too, and they say that they are the happiest they've ever been in a relationship. And what happens is when we stick to that old type, or we stick to this one quality we have to have, we take it down to looking for a needle in a haystack. And we get frustrated and you start saying there are no good men out there. And the problem is you can't see them. And that's what
Yes.
clients say to me. I would never have seen my guy without this quality man template I created. I'd have just
Right.
passed by.
That makes so much sense to me. And I must say for myself as well, I am also extremely happily together with somebody now for 8 years, which for the first 2 years, I wouldn't even call my boyfriend. My children would say, is your boyfriend coming? And I'd say, he's not my boyfriend. So they started calling him my non-boyfriend because I was just so sure that we were not a match. I loved him. We had great chemistry. We were friends 35 years ago. But I did not see, because indeed my focus, or what I was looking for, was more or less what I had before, even though I was no longer with what I had before. And it took me 3 breakups until I woke up and I thought, Julie Kennedy, what is important with you? What is it you want? And it was really the idea that, yes, this energy that we share, the positivity, all sorts of things. I thought I can grow old with this guy. And yes, you do need to give it a try. But of course, I have friends say to me, oh, but how did you know? When did you know? I am a coach, but not a dating coach. But this is just friends, right? And I do seem to have a lot of single over 50 girls in my network. And it's to help them to understand how to go about it. But your idea of a template is fantastic. It's to revisit what is it that you're looking for. And I personally believe that there might not be one for the whole lifetime. I know that what I was looking for in my husband to be, as in the father I wanted for my children, it was my ex-husband. But it's just after 25 years, that was not what I needed anymore. And I was not what he needed anymore. I dared say, I really don't think this is working and we need to decide it's now or never. There's nothing dramatically wrong, but I'm not making you happy and you're not making me happy. And so the guy that I have now, I may not have chosen as father of my children just as much as he is perfect for me now. Do you believe that?
I do believe that. And I do believe that we choose qualities, our old type, because it feels safe to us.
Yeah.
And we think it's going to give us what we want. And it doesn't necessarily do that.
Right.
But then we get scared, like, oh my God, I'm growing old. For example, financially,
Yes.
a lot of women want very, very wealthy men. Not everybody out there is wealthy, but there's a great guy out there who might be perfect for you, who can hold his own. He can take you to dinner. You can share expenses if you have to. Oftentimes still ingrained in the idea of marriage and the traditional relationship and the idea that someone is going to take care of us. And we get scared. We go, oh my God. Or I have people say to me, I want to be able to spontaneously get on an airplane and go to Europe. And I'm like, well, you can do that. If he doesn't, it's okay. I think one of the biggest things is too in over 50s dating is we come into it or we come out of relationships, whether through marriage or the passing of a spouse, from that traditional, the guy's going to take care of me. And the younger generation today does not have this belief, but the
Yes.
guy is going to take care of me. I mean, when I came out of my first marriage, I thought Prince Charming's going to come in, swoop me up.
Me too.
He'll pay for everything, keep all my money, and we'll never argue.
We're still little girls at heart, aren't we?
Yes. Well, our generation was so brought up on fairy tales. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, we come out of this traditional stance of the guy's going to take care of us forever, blah, blah, blah. Well, the world has changed. And also, what is so cool about over 50s dating is you don't have to get married. You don't even have to live together. You can have a committed relationship. You can live apart. You can live together. You can just have a boyfriend. You can just have a companion. And you can have guys as friends, which is a great thing. But it's like we get boxed into this little teeny narrow way of how it has to be done.
Yeah.
And that too stops us from getting what we want. But the biggest thing is, I think that stops us is this perception of safety and what it looks like to us based on romantic fairy tales of a guy saving us. And it really starts within yourself. You've got to save yourself first, you know, and then the guy can match you. And you also have to realize the guy is not your everything. We were taught that he was going to be our everything. If you think about traditional marriages, we did not go out necessarily with friends on a weeknight. You know, like I still go out with my friends on a weeknight too. And I would say my friends in marriages, they do not go out on a weeknight, you know.
No.
So it's like the world is changing and we sort of, you've got to come into this new view of it, which will actually give you freedom. And a lot of women, by the way, I want to put this out there too. They are so afraid of losing their independence if they,
that rings a bell.
And the reason for that comes back to the traditional way that we looked at marriage, and we were penned in. We often made dinner, did the laundry, did this and did that. And I know in my second marriage, I just stepped right back into that. And he was giving so little of anything. And I was like, oh, I'll give you this, I'll give you this. And that's called overgiving for love. That's a whole other topic we could, focus on another time. But you don't have to do that. And it's learning to honor yourself, learning to do what you want to do, and negotiating and with the guy what the two of you want to create and how it has to look. And it does not have to look traditional, like what you can.
But what you're saying is also, in a way, it's the perfect age for us to do that. I mean, I'm not suggesting that everybody should break up their marriages to go, have a go at this wonderful dating after 50. But, for those who have or haven't, found anyone to start with, at 50, you would hope that we have a little bit more of a knowledge of who we are as well, right? And what we need. But it's to look really at, first of all, truly, who am I? Not who did I feel I had to be, for whether your parents or whatsoever. I used to go for ages saying, I'm a princess, until somebody pointed out to me that to be a princess, then my father was the king. And he said, well, why aren't you a queen? Then it's your own choice. It might be you who became queen, not because your daddy looked after you, so you're the princess. And I said it was a big wake-up call for me. And I thought, yeah, I was very much that fairy tale person. And we spoke about it a lot in my new relationship, because I was getting a little bit like, well, you can look after me, so why would you not want to? Then you have all the issues of inheritance and other children from other marriages and all of that. But I was very taken aback for how I consider myself as a modern liberal woman, of the things that I was saying to him. I was ashamed. I was a bit like, Julie Kennedy, where does that come from? If you want to do it, you do it. But it doesn't have to be through him. And this sort of neediness that a lot of us have. Tell me I'm beautiful and I'll feel okay. Look after me and then I'll be happy. It's very much a neediness. So, what you said before about loving yourself, that has to be number one, right? We can't hope that we will love ourselves because somebody else does, because then once they stop, then who loves us anymore? No one. Then we're lost.
Right. When we're looking outside of ourselves for validation, that means we're dependent. We do become needy because we're dependent on somebody
Yeah.
giving it to us. And that's why it's so important. The biggest things I teach women are to honor themselves and to feel empowered when they're out there, because of the traditional roles we came from. We will go right back into them, and then we get resentful. And
Right, exactly.
You don't have to make the dinner, do the dishes to be, I don't know if you all had this back in the day, but here in the States, we had this Virginia Slims commercial where the woman's smoking away. And
that shows our age, right?
yeah. Oh God, thank God that's gone. But she's smoking, she's got a pan in her hand, she's doing laundry. She was like doing it all.
Yeah.
And this is and she could smoke Virginia Slims, but it was like, we became like these powerhouses of women that did do it all.
Yeah.
Us.
Yeah.
And the other issue though is guys will give to you, but sometimes we so criticize them that we actually train them to stop giving to us.
Right.
So that is a big thing when you're negotiating this. Try and find the best things you both can give to the relationship. But if he loads the dishwasher wrong, well, big deal. And this is something I'm here to work on too.
Exactly. And that's actually the topic of the episode I've just released today. It is about that. And the fact is that we want them to do it, but then we criticize them so much and decide that we do it much faster ourselves because we decide how it's well done. And if they don't do it like we do, I know, yeah, you have to compromise. As you say, you have to have these discussions. Right. So if I ask you for 3 tips, because also I see a lot of my friends, as you said, fear, like you were talking at the beginning. Oh, God, no, at my age, I'm not putting myself out there and all this online stuff. And it's not fun, right? It's not something they look forward to. It's like this horrible idea, ordeal that they set themselves up for. How do you go about making it fun and making it, the way you've been describing it, it sounds a bit like, it makes me feel like, it's going to be a journey of self-discovery, of discovering a new me with a new him or her or whatever it is, that you can make it also fun and a part of your journey, not some sort of horrible ordeal you have to go through because for whatever reason you don't have a partner.
Yes. Well, I think the first thing is instead of going on that first meet and greet or date, instead of trying to figure out if he is the one, which is what most women do before that cup of coffee or that glass of wine is down, just go on that date to meet someone new and interesting. Ask interesting questions like, as a kid, where did your family go during the summers? The reason you want to ask interesting questions is when we are sharing stories that share history which is the time we lived in together, it makes someone a lot more interesting than if you
Yes.
just say, how many kids do you have? Do you have
Yes.
grandkids? How long have you been divorced? Why do you think you are still single? This is
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
this is not nice. I mean, this is tough stuff. This is
But it's
not,
not a nice energy conversation, is it?
no, it's
No.
like a
Yeah.
dating resume, check, check,
Yeah.
check.
Yeah.
So I tell my clients, I want you to look for 3 good things about a guy, because it's really easy, because we're always coming from that protection place of, how do I stay safe? How do I stay safe? So
Yeah.
look for 3 good things about a guy. And then, on every date, okay, they may be awful in the long run and not for you. And for my clients, they're holding a guy up to this quality man template. And
Yeah.
this is what helps them see the potential there. But that's the first thing. The second thing is if you don't get a second date and you really wanted a second date, I want you to use the mantra, he's not rejecting me personally. I
Mm.
just don't fit the picture of who he thinks he wants. Because we do that to men too.
Yes.
And we reject them. And
Yes.
everybody's been so rejected that they come into these things with so much baggage and sometimes nastiness.
Yes.
And you'll see profiles that are like, well, if you're this, if you're that, if you're that, 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 and it's back to the safety thing. And it's
Right.
back of getting wounded again, at
Yeah.
childhood. So those are 2 things that will help you on a date, just looking for
Yeah.
something new and interesting. And the third thing is you have choice. You can put a guy in there as nothing. No, I don't think this guy's for me, but I always tell women, give nice men a chance. And
Yes.
we'll get into this thing of he has to be 6 inches taller than you or goodbye. Because
Yeah.
I have a client, she is in the most amazing relationship. She thought the guy had to be, she was like 5'4" and he had to be 6'1". And that's the safety thing again. It's
Yeah.
a perception of safety because he's tall, but it doesn't mean he's safe. She ended up
Yeah.
with a guy who was 5'5" and they're so happy.
Exactly.
But,
So it's
but
also because you talked about the I don't know what you called it, values, something values, that we need to look at what is really important for us. We
yeah,
don't need to look like Ken and Barbie anymore. Having some friendly person who doesn't look anything like Ken, but with whom we can laugh the rest of our life and share and have that, coming home feeling, whether it's out being extravagant or sitting at home sharing a pizza, that somehow matters. I always say to myself, do I want to grow old with that person? Knowing that old is going to come, right? We can pretend we would like to look like Ken and Barbie, but actually I'm grateful we're not. I never did. But it is that it's what really matters. I mean, I wanted someone highly intellectual just because all my men always had been and they were all, fancy jobs and all of that. And then I realized, no, actually, that part of me I can fulfill with a girlfriend, with anybody else. That isn't what I need to have in my partner. I need someone who's loving, fun, always ready for a new adventure, but also knows how to slow me down when I'm getting too much. That's what I need. And that's the sort of man I want to grow old with. Gosh, we're already at the end. Lisa, well, I mean, you even mentioned yourself maybe coming back to revisit some of the points. So you are very welcome. And I would love actually to take this further because I think it's a very important topic. And I'm about all of us embracing this part of my life. And I see so many in my environment who, for whatever reason, are dragging still behind them a whole load of stuff and are feeling smaller and smaller, more and more scared, and who are, a bit like, oh, well, I'm actually fine living alone. And I'm like, no, it's not.
oh, yeah.
Right?
Okay, the free gift, because I know we're out of time. So I have a free gift. It's called the 5 Little Known Secrets for Finding a Quality Man. I think you have the link you're going to put in the show
Yes,
notes.
I will.
And this is just a way to jumpstart your love life in terms of it has some ideas for your profile, what to put in it, because really women write profiles that are not the best and too long, and men days out and they put bad pictures. And there's some things in there about that and about how to meet men in real life and 5 different ways to really get to know men, including flirting. And so it's just a short little ebook to really stimulate you, inspire you, and motivate you.
Fantastic. And it sounds very practical. It sounds
Yeah.
like something that, anybody can take read, commit to, and start doing those different steps. So thank you very much, Lisa. And if you would like to come back to revisit any of the things, what was the thing? Overgiving for love. I love that because that's so feminine. So you are welcome back anytime. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, since for you it's the beginning of the day. For the rest of you out there, thank you for joining me today. Please also subscribe to my YouTube channel and maybe leave me a review on iTunes. Loads of love to you all. And yes, here's to a happy, fun, exciting dating after 50. Bye-bye for now. Bye. Bye, Lisa.
Bye-bye, Julie.